Hey, what's up YouTube? Back here with another Q&A, and this is YouTube Q&A number 5. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about a few different topics ranging from the Jefferson Curl to my own personal back injury, also to professional athletes that have overcome serious back injuries. So let's just jump into it right away. First question. Thanks so much for all of your very helpful information, Remi. I'm wondering, while you were suffering from sciatica from your bulging disc, did you do any sciatic stretches along with these exercises? So in the initial stages when I first got injured and I didn't know much about back injuries or disc injuries, I was searching on the internet for sciatica stretches or exercises for bulging disc. And I was performing a lot of stretches from the results that I was finding, whether it was on YouTube or Google. And initially while doing them, I was actually getting more pain. And I actually arguably got worse because of this, because I wasn't educated and I was just following blind advice from people that weren't educated and didn't really have much knowledge on this topic and were giving recommendations. As soon as I started cutting those stretches out, I started to get better. Now, that's not to say I didn't do any stretches that didn't help. There were some, hip mobility restrictions that I was having, so some hip stretches were, in terms of stretching the hip flexors out, that helped a little bit in terms of improving a little bit of the mobility there. But overall, stretches for sciatica, a lot of what I found, a lot of what I was doing made things worse. And I wouldn't recommend stretching right off the bat if you're someone that's gonna just look to stretch something because it's tight. See a medical professional, whether it's a someone like a personal trainer, physical therapist, someone that knows about exercise and the biomechanics related to certain injuries. Because if you stretch the wrong thing out, you could actually make things worse and provoke pain. And for someone that's uneducated, they could be doing this consistently over time. While they think it's gonna do them better, it's actually making things worse. And not in all cases, stretching is the solution, and it could actually perhaps make things worse. And there may be something we don't want to stretch out. It's tight for a reason. We want it to be tight. So if you're a little bit unsure about what you're doing, seek out a trainer, therapist, someone that has knowledge on this topic that can provide you with advice, because you don't want to be stretching something out that you don't want to be and that is provoking pain. So that's my advice there. As soon as I kind of started cutting those out, I started to get better. Second question. How long did it take until you returned to playing sports? So it took me about 2 to 3 years. I was very hesitant. My initial goal from the beginning was just to get pain-free. I never really put that goal together to return to sports. Yes, that's something I would have liked to do, but really I just wanted to be pain-free. And it didn't become really a realistic goal until about 2 years. So after about 2 years of going through recovery, injury, and getting myself back into shape, I started playing sports here and there, whether it was hockey, basketball, just kind of periodically once in a while just to give it a try. And for the most part it felt good, but I didn't want to push it. But I'd play every once in a while just to give it a try, and then slowly over time I progressed, and after 3 years I was playing on a more organized level where it was 1 to 2 times per week, and I was fine at that point. So really, after building up a good foundation, following a good program, and just getting comfortable from a mental perspective, I was there in about 3 years. Now, with that being said, keep in mind, it took me a long time to get there because I wasn't knowledgeable. I had to learn this all myself. I was going through the process through trial and error, worked with a lot of different professionals, physios, chiros, doctors that didn't provide me with good advice. And I was learning this a lot on my own, whether through research, Stuart McGill's work, and just my own experiences with regards to positions that cause pain and exercises, and just finding out what worked best for me. So that's why that process was a little longer. If I had to go through it again, probably wouldn't have taken nearly as long. Third question, Remi, your views on the Jefferson Curl at the last stage of rehab for introducing loaded flexion. And do you also introduce flexion in your rehab to get stronger at this motion of the spine is our everyday? So just to talk about the Jefferson Curl, not a big fan of it whatsoever. And just kind of reiterating Dr. Stuart McGill, from what I've heard him say about the Jefferson Curl, he's not really a fan either. Yes, there could be an argument for it if you're like a coach that's using it as a technique to improve mobility and maybe a gymnast or something. But you got to understand the risk and the benefit. Does the benefit outseed the risk? Because there's the risk of always creating a back injury, because when you load flexion and go through that cycle repeatedly, that's the mechanism for creating a disc bulge / disc herniation. So not a fan of it. Wouldn't introduce loaded flexion as a part of rehab in any way. But then again, I'm not a rehab specialist person, so keep that in mind, but those are my views there. And then introducing flexion into rehab, so to get stronger. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to flexion, and I'm assuming this person's talking about spinal flexion, you don't want to, bending at the spine here to pick something up is not good practice. And that's how we throw our back out. We want to bend at the hips like a hinge where our spine is neutral, not around the back. Well, I can bend over like this to pick something up, pain-free. It's not something I want to do because I know that could easily trigger something and recreate my issues. You want to practice with good technique. That's why I bend at the hips now as opposed to the back. That's going to save the spine and spare it from stress or an injury. So my kind of advice there is learn to bend at the hips versus the spine in terms of the rehab process there. Next question. So a little bit longer in terms of information here, but I have an L5-S1 extruded disc. I'm up every night wondering how I could go back into time to run away from this seemingly permanent situation. It seems unreal to be in this situation. I played soccer and enjoyed some success in track and field. I've been forced to give up that since I was diagnosed with the extruded disc back in mid-May. I know it's only been 2 months, and I'm glad that I'm no longer going back and forth to the hospital because the muscle spasms wouldn't let me sleep. Are there any bodybuilders or professional athletes who have overcome this? I want to be ripped one day. Okay, so bodybuilders, professional athletes, several of them out there. Some notable names: Brian Carroll, powerlifter, overcome some serious back issues. You could read his story in the book Gift of Injury that is accompanied with Stuart McGill. Professional athletes, we can look to guys like Mario Lemieux, just going off hockey players, just because this is from most research I've done. You got Mario Lemieux, you got guys like Zach Parise, Daniel Alfredson. A lot of these guys, high recognized names, all had disc issues, have overcome them, returned to sports, and playing still at a high level. I mean, you could search, there's several athletes out there that have had back issues. Tiger Woods is another one that comes to mind. Well, he underwent surgery, but you know, he's still back now. He's playing some good golf. So a lot of wide variety of athletes out there. Look at basketball players, football players, all that back issues, and have been able to return. Now there is the unfortunate cases where there's guys like Nathan Horton from hockey, just naming him. I believe Joffrey Lupul's another one that just were never able to kind of return or get back to that stage. So those are a few names on the hockey side of things. But yeah, there's many athletes out there that have been able to overcome this, and you can kind of search up their injury situation or cases just online. Number 5, hi Remi, your story with disc bulge and recovery gave me hope. I have an L405 and L5S1 posterior disc bulge diagnosed a month back. 8 months back, I fell from the stairs and injured my back, fracturing my L4 and L5 vertebrae. The fracture has been healed, but now suffering from disc bulge. I'm now doing Cobra push-ups, cow position, Superman. Are these good for me? Also, should I consider traction or continue with my exercise? Please help. So I can't recommend any specific exercises for you just because I don't know you, I don't know how you move, and I just haven't really seen your posture and how you maybe respond to different loads and motions and whatnot. In terms of the exercises you name, I wouldn't recommend Supermans just because of the high compressive force and going into a hyperextended position. Typically not the best thing for someone with existing back issues, especially coming back from a fracture and has multiple disc issues. Cobra push-ups, depends on the person. I'm not a fan in general. They can help some people, but now we're talking about disc anatomy, very specific things. I would recommend seeing a therapist to see if that's maybe a good thing for you, or just go by see in terms of a trial and error thing to see if it helps or not. Cow position, so that's the kind of cat-cow exercise. Depends on the person. As long as you don't have pain with going into flexion or extension, this is a great little spine warm-up exercise. If you don't have pain while doing it, the goal is to focus on the motion as opposed to the end range though. Nice little warm-up exercise that I use with a lot of my clients prior to a workout. But if you have pain with either of those, it's not something that is going to be good for you probably at this time. The other part of that question, should I consider traction? Hard to say. Something I would discuss with your therapist or clinician that you're working with. Some people get better with traction. Some could actually maybe get pain with traction, but It depends even how precise it is. I would see a therapist who can perform some traction on you at a very precise level. And if that feels good, traction may be for you. If it doesn't, then hey, that's not something that maybe is for you. Other than that, that is all for this Q&A today. I hope this provides you with some good information, guys. And if you have any other questions for a future Q&A, just please leave them below in the comment. And with that being said, I hope you guys all have a great weekend here. And until next time, take care and all the best, guys. See you later.